Union 101 with Mackie P. We're going to tell you all about unions and the benefits of joining a union and what that will look like once you're in it. But before we get into all that, we need to dive into the history and learn how unions came to be. Let's take it back to 1951.
Unions have been around a lot longer than the 1950s. The labor organization movement started in the early 1800s in Canada, but by the 1960s and 70s, people who worked in health and human services were involved in organizing and working with unions to make their quality of life better and their workplaces safer. For people with disabilities, deinstitutionalization, which was driven by them, their families, and organizations like People First. Deinstitutionalization led to privatization. The state-run institutions no longer could provide care. And so the government said, well, let's leave it up to private industry. There was a neoliberal ethic, and they thought that private organizations and private corporations could do a better job. The market could work with supporting people with disabilities. The only problem there is that corporations are usually in it for their shareholders, and that means they need profits, which leads to funding cuts and staffing cuts and lowering quality of care. When these things began to happen, workers started looking at unions and getting involved with labor organizations to help them advocate for better working conditions and protect their jobs. What was going on in the background, though, is that people with disabilities who were involved in the deinstitutionalization process and had a say in what was going to happen next don't really have a say in what's going on with unions. The workers are involved. The unions are involved, the organizations are involved, but the people with disabilities, the people who matter the most, aren't really part of the conversation. And that's where we're at now.
What do unions do for their workers?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Workers do so many things for their workers, it would be impossible to list them all. But here are some of the highlights. Unions advocate for their members and negotiate workers' rights, such as wages, health and safety, educational opportunities, and benefits. In a union, shifts and positions are handed out on the basis of seniority. For example, if you and your coworker both bid on the same shift or position, and you have worked 200 hours and your coworkers only worked 100, you will get that position because of your seniority. This avoids any bias or favoritism towards a particular employee over another. When you join a position in a union, you are guaranteed those hours. There is no such thing as cutting hours in a union because you have job security.
You ever heard of the trickle-down theory? No? Come on. Trickle-down theory is when one group of people get something more, and everyone hopes it's going to trickle down to the other people beneath them. So, in this context, it means that workers with a union get higher wages, they negotiate, they get more benefits, they get more education, get retirement, they get all these things. And what that's supposed to do is it's supposed to trickle down to the people they support. People with disabilities are going to have better lives, better quality of lives, because workers have better quality of lives. There'll be more person-centered care because there's going to be better education for workers. All these things are going to be beneficial to the people in the end who they care for. But I'm not so sure. The only way trickle-down theory works is if the people in the organizations where the workers are have these things in mind. If the organizations have person-centered care in mind, then Sure, that benefits people with disabilities. If the organizations have great behavioral plans, good engagement, great inclusion, that also works. But what if the organizations don't? What if the organizations don't really put people first? What if they're not really involved at all?
Still not convinced on unions? Let's check in with our trusted cohort as to how they felt before and after unionizing.
What's a union?
Work is so boring.
My hours keep getting cut. I can't afford to live like this.
I feel so helpless. If only there was someone to advocate for me.
I dread coming into work. I don't know if I can do this anymore.
I can't remember what it was like before unionizing.
This is the coolest thing ever.
I love unions. Working has never been easier.
Thanks, union. You've helped me so much.
I love coming into work. I'm going to continue my career here.
But before you join a union as an education assistant or a community support worker, please remember that unions are not responsible for
lack of sleep, ensuring your personal and professional life remains separate, personal competence, the disconnection between employer and employee communication, quality of care of workers and people with disabilities, burnouts, decreased job performance, over-controlling thoughts of early retirement, and maintaining your life satisfaction.
other negative effects of joining a union may include
Prioritizing experience rather than skill, wasted potential in cushier positions, union dues, higher needs individuals being supported by inexperienced workers.
What do unions do for people with disabilities?
Hi, and welcome to the New Story Collective. We just started out and we've got a lot to figure out, but we know what our future should look like.
Have you ever wondered what a union would look like if you put the person at the center of the system?
What if people being supported were involved in the support they were being given?
Well, our vision at New Story Collective
Is to celebrate both workers and individuals supported. We use independent facilitation, which would allow the opportunity to directly participate, meaning individuals cared for are more involved in the making of the decisions that affect their lives.
we celebrate individuals' goals and we incorporate them into the goals of the community.
We use collaboration, not consultation, which allows involvement for all parties, such as the government, nonprofit organizations, staff, the individuals cared for, and their families.
We inspire our employees' compassion by adding music, singing, and dance into daily living to create joy. In our practice at New Story Collective, we are actively seeking funding for those who are being excluded.
We facilitate connection between social networks and isolated individuals.
And we embody being there for each other at all times of day or night.
And fight for the policy that will enhance social inclusion and citizenship. Because as John Lord said, this process of change will not be easy.
But our optimism resides in the fact that more and more of us will want to enhance the common good.